Steve, we understand that you've had an illustrious career in basketball. Can you tell us about it?
Yes, be happy to. I was just an average player coming out of high school, Natick High School, outside of Boston. 11 points a game. I was awkward as could be. Size 15 shoes. I could barely walk. Was I getting some letters from some colleges? Yeah, Northeastern and BU, but it was half-hearted. I was still growing. And that summer, the summer of my junior year, I grew 3.5 inches. And then I started to grow into my body. So looking at colleges, my parents said, well, maybe somebody suggested going to Worcester Academy, the prep school in Worcester, famous prep school. There's a young coach there doing some great things, they said. So I go up to Worcester Academy, I meet this coach who becomes my mentor, my best man at my wedding. I'm still very close with him. He's like my second father. Donald Rowe, D. Rowe is his name. He's a legend in Worcester and in Connecticut. He's close with Cousy, they're friendly. And Cousy, living in Worcester, would come to many of our games in Worcester Academy. We won 2 New England prep school championships. That's how good we were. And the rest was history. My folks kind of let me and this Coach Rowe decide that I would go to Boston College. And that's how Boston College happened. My folks dropped me off. We only lived 20 minutes from the school, 30 minutes from the school. We were in Wayland, Massachusetts, about 30 minutes outside of Boston. They dropped me off at the freshman dorm. I take my stuff. I walk into the dorm, not knowing what to expect. And there's a priest checking off the names of the guys as you're walking in, of course, assigning them their room numbers. So I tell him, Adelman, he looks on the list. Yeah, you're at the top of the list. And he looks up and says, you look Italian, but Adelman's not Italian. I said, no, Father, I'm a Russian-Hungarian Jew. He says to me, son, you must have taken a wrong turn. Brandeis is up the street about 15 minutes. True story. True story. So that was my first day at Boston College. And after that, the rest was history. I was fortunate I had good teammates. They got me the ball. I wasn't starting as a sophomore. I came off the bench, first sub off the bench, because Cousy was breaking me in slowly. So the first 8 games I came off the bench. I was the second leading scorer on the team. And now there's some Jewish reporter from one of the Boston papers, and he's saying that if Cousy doesn't start Adelman in the next game, there's going to be a lot of letters sent to the Jewish Advocate. Well, I don't know if that ever happened, but this Jewish reporter was a pain in my neck many times, and I'll tell you why in a little bit later. But then they decided to stop me after 9 games into the season, and I went from 15 points a game, playing half the game, to 30 points a game. So that kind of put me on the map, so to speak. And then we played some of the best teams in the country, and we were 23-5 that year, so it was a good team. The best team was 22-3 my junior year, and we were in the top 5, or maybe even the top 5 for sure. And then we were in the top 10 a couple of times in my senior year. And that was my start at BC.
Wow. I understand you were inducted into the Boston College Varsity Club Athletic Hall of Fame. When was that?
That was 1987, a few years after I graduated. And there's a long list of some great athletes there. Football, Doug Flutie, who you might recognize, I'm sure. When I speak at some synagogues or some high schools, I was from Natick also. Flutie was from Natick High. So I say Flutie turned me into the 2nd greatest athlete to come out of Natick. And that gets a laugh out of a few people. But yes, I was into the Hall of Fame. And normally, there's about 400 or 500 people at that dinner, the night of the Hall of Fame. The priest that was the president of Boston College, Father Morin, I'm going to say, Father Morin, was being inducted into the Hall of Fame at the same time. He was a great hockey player at BC. So instead of 500 or 600 people, there was closer to 1,000 people in the restaurant. So it was a great night. Not for me, it was a great night for me, but it was really about Father Morin. So that's the Hall of Fame story.
Tell me about the Maccabee games.
Oh, such a big part of my life. 1965, I'm the youngest kid on the team, and we go up to Cutchers to practice. Coach from Lafayette named Davidson, I didn't know much about him, was the coach. And Haskell Cohen, you might recognize Haskell Cohen's name. He was very involved with the Maccabee, and he always had a nice word for me. So I am on that team practicing with Tal Brody, who was an All-American from Illinois, and probably the best guard I ever played with. We go over to Israel, and we're blowing everybody out. We play Israel in the championship game, and we win by 7. And it was just a great thing for us. And being the youngest guy on the team, it was just special for me. But Maccabee in general has been a big part of my life. The head of Maccabee, his name is Ron Connor. He was there for 30 years, does some great work for Maccabee. He likes to say, I went to Boston College because I couldn't get into Holy Cross. Not true. It's a great story, but it's not true. Now, you're 44 years old, talking about Maccabee, and Ron Connor, my friend, puts together a senior team. You had to be over 40 to play, over 35 years of age to play. And we put together a team, and we're a little weak. And we go over to Israel and we play, and I didn't have enough help. I had a good friend who was there who was a great shooter at Brandeis, a great ball player at Brandeis. Stuart Paris was his name. And, but we needed a few more horses. We didn't have a few horses. So we lost 4 games to the Israelis. But it was a great experience. My wife was there with my kids, and my folks were there. So that was special. I walked into the locker room at the end of the 4th game when we lost, and I said, fellas, this is a great experience, something we'll treasure for a long time. But guys, I have never lost 4 games in a row in my life. I've been on winning teams all my life. I never lost 2 games in a row. If you ever see me on the streets of New York, pretend you don't know me. And of course, I was only joking at the time. But winning was a big part of my life. I don't know why. It's something that's instilled in you, I guess, maybe. But like I said, Worcester Academy, we won 2 prep school championships. We're in the top 10 at BC, top 5 one year. And we just had some great teams. I was fortunate to be part of it.
What was your career after you graduated?
I was drafted by the Baltimore Bullets, who are the Washington Wizards now. And I went down there. I was there for 3 weeks. They tried to put my rear end in the backcourt, and I'm not a backcourt guy. Their strength was up front. So by the time I was released, our first daughter had come along, and I couldn't afford to be a bum anymore. The only regret I have, I would have gone back to Israel or with the ABA. The Nets and the ABA had the rights to me. But my dad had just bought out the clothing business, and he kind of made me an offer I couldn't refuse, kind of thing. So I became a schmutter man, a sweater salesman. And it was a great career. We were Boston-based, but we worked in New York 3 days a week, my dad and I. So we did a lot of traveling, and it was a good life, even though the garment district was a little cutthroat, as it were. But that was my life after basketball. But I stayed active with the Temple. I coached my daughter's team. She went on to play at Yale, and we had like withdrawal pains. After she graduated, after 4 years, we had withdrawal pains because we didn't know where to go after she graduated. But so you can see what a big part of my life it was.
When did you come to Florida?
We came to Florida in late 1990s. We were still working, of course. My folks were living in Boca. We got a place on A1A to be close to them. And we were there for 6 or 7 years. And then my dad passed. We weren't using the place as much at the time. We were still working. My mom came down to Palm Isles because she needed a place that was a little smaller, a little easier for her. She was wheelchair bound. So we would come down and visit her several times. And then we took it over when she passed about 6, 7 years ago. And that's how we're here.
And what activities here do you especially enjoy?
Well, I'm upset that we don't have a basketball hoop here. I want to go on record with that. I'm going to bring it up at the next meeting because I want to shoot around with your grandkids and my grandkids and everybody's grandkids. But I play pickleball, which I enjoy a lot, and we walk a lot and we ride the bikes. And that keeps us out of trouble for the most part. Yeah.
Well, thank you so much. You have a fascinating story.
Thank you.
And thank you for being part of the Palm Isles presentation.
Thank you. My pleasure.